So there is absolutely no such thing as sending these animals to a vet for quarantine. And anybody who's going to say that is just dumb and has no idea how rabies quarantine actually works, especially when it comes to wild animals. The only victims of this situation is the squirrel and the raccoon. They're the only victims. They would have never been seized and they would have never been put down had these two dummies got the proper licenses to keep them. Imagine this, a heartbreaking story of government agents storming into your home and tearing your beloved pets away from you, killing them without any remorse. Well, that's the story that Mark Longo wants you to believe happened to him and his family regarding his pet squirrel and raccoon. It's an emotional, gripping, and conveniently designed story to create outrage. But what if it's not the whole truth? What if it's a calculated move to pull at your heartstrings, drive donations, and increase his social media presence? There's so much more to this story than what you were told, and that's why you should never take these viral tales at face value. So let's break down the facts about how you were manipulated and lied to. Before I get into this video though, I do have to say a huge thank you to everybody who's been sending me fan art. If you want to stick around for the fan art unboxing, it's going to be at the end of this video. Additionally, don't forget to check out any of our animal activist artwork. It's going to be on orbitingbeast.com. And also I post all of my horse training videos at the barn, Braylee's latest surgery, all of that on my Patreon and members. So you guys can head on over there to check that out if you're interested. In 2017, Mark Longo claimed to have rescued a squirrel he named Peanut. But let's take a closer look at what rescue really means to him. Longo alleges that the squirrel was abandoned, but there's no evidence to confirm this. Many self-proclaimed rescuers find animals outside and claim heroic acts without verifying that the animal was actually in need of help. Just because you find a wild animal alone does not necessarily mean that the animal has been abandoned. And here's where his story gets questionable. Mark claims he attempted to rehabilitate and release Peanut. However, wildlife experts know that allowing an animal to live inside your home destroys its ability to survive in the wild. Any legitimate wildlife rehabilitator understands this golden rule: all animals that cohabitate with humans are no longer viable for release. And by keeping Peanut indoors, Mark ensured that this squirrel would never return to the wild. Was this truly about him helping Peanut, or did Mark simply want a pet squirrel? His claim of rehabilitation is dubious at best. Now, one thing that I think is important for everybody to know. First of all, it's illegal to own wildlife in pretty much every single state. The reason for this is because there's a huge education process that comes with owning wild animals. Not for the person, but for the healthcare and safety of the animal themselves. It's not about controlling you. It's about the healthcare and safety of the wildlife. They don't want a bunch of people buying wild animals and those animals suffering as a result of that. One argument that I've seen is he didn't have enough time to obtain a license or a permit for these animals, which is just blatantly untrue. The processing time for obtaining a license to own wildlife and having somebody come out and check to see if you're an adequate person to be housing these wild animals and if you have the knowledge applicable for this, the processing time only takes about 45 days to get the license from start to finish. You had 7 years to obtain a wildlife license and you didn't. Really, there's no excuse there, and he should have absolutely had one if he was going to own a wild animal. To me, that shows that he never really cared about the squirrel in the first place. Diving a little bit further down the rabbit hole, Mark and his wife Daniela moved to upstate New York, and over the last couple of years, they opened up their own nonprofit animal sanctuary. The reason I'm using quotes is because anybody can open up a nonprofit. You can go down to your local courthouse or even go on the court's website and just apply for a nonprofit. It's not difficult at all. So just because somebody has a nonprofit does not mean that they're running a legitimate animal rescue or animal sanctuary. And this is something that we talk about so much on my channel, because the amount of animal sanctuaries that I've exposed over the years that are not actually real, that not only mistreat their animals, but also don't house them properly, don't feed them properly, et cetera, is astronomical. They claim to be rescuing farm animals. The majority of animals that I've seen on their website are horses, which is my main area of expertise. And the majority of rescued horses that they have at their sanctuary are horses that they claim to have gotten from the slaughter pipeline. Anybody who's been involved with horses for a hot minute knows that the slaughter pipeline is going to auctions and buying horses for dirt cheap. That does not mean that they're going to slaughter. It does not mean that they're being shipped overseas for slaughter. Going to auctions, presumably, and buying horses for cheap and putting it on your property and claiming that you're rescuing horses and providing a sanctuary for horses that we're going to go to slaughter is misleading at best. It's just my opinion that their whole persona is incredibly shady, and there's a lot of red flags that popped up about these people when I was investigating them. Not to mention that he also has an OnlyFans account. My problem is not with the OnlyFans account. My problem is with his username. And I don't know if he's since changed it since me sitting here and filming and editing this video and posting it, but his username as of now is Peanut's Dad. When you start associating yourself with animals and sex, that's where I draw the line. Animals and children should never be associated with sex at all. I don't even care if it's just a username, it's inappropriate. But now we're getting into the actual incident. In January of 2024, he was reported to the state by actual wildlife rehabilitators. These were real people that specialize in rehabilitating wildlife legitimately. I know a lot of people were under the assumption that it was just some angry neighbor or it was just some disgruntled person that didn't like his OnlyFans or social media, and that's not the case. These were real wildlife rehabilitators that reported him. At this point, he was notified by the state that he needed to provide proper documentation that he legally owned this squirrel and raccoon and also had his licenses for them. And if he didn't have proper licensing for them, then he would need to apply for that through the state. So it's not as if the state did not give him an opportunity to get a license. And at this point in January, when Mark was approached by the state, he claimed that the squirrel was released. Now, he has since come out and denied that he made that statement, but I absolutely believe that that is a statement that he made. Fast forwarding 10 months later in October of 2024, which was just last month, the CHD in his area notified the state again that he was still illegally housing unlicensed animals in his home on his property. So then the state had sent multiple biologists to go and seize the squirrel and the raccoon from the property, not for euthanasia, but because this guy was illegally housing them. What ended up happening during the seizure of the two animals is the squirrel bit through one of the biologist's gloves and bit this person multiple times. Typically, when you're bit by a wild animal, the animal has to go in for rabies testing. This is very standard. This is not like uncommon. He tries to claim, he being Mark, that the squirrel and the raccoon were seized just to be put down, which is not the case. I'm sure that the state was fully willing to rehabilitate these animals. And one thing that anybody who has worked with wildlife knows is that rabies testing involves killing the animal. That's the only way to test it is through the brain tissue. So anytime there's going to be a rabies test, those animals have to be euthanized in order to test for rabies. Anybody whose opinion is these animals should have been quarantined instead of killed to be tested for rabies has absolutely zero understanding of how rabies works. Rabies can take several weeks to several months to show up after exposure. Keeping an animal in quarantine for rabies observation can take upwards of 6 months. This involves feeding, monitoring, medical care. I think it's important to note that observation, which is quarantine, is nowhere near as reliable as lab testing. So there is absolutely no such thing as sending these animals to a vet for quarantine. And anybody who's going to say that is just dumb and has no idea how rabies quarantine actually works, especially when it comes to wild animals. This is one of the reasons why the latest story that popped off here in Colorado was several puppies in a litter had rabies, and therefore they had to seize all the puppies in the litter and put them down so they could test every single one for rabies and make sure it didn't spread. It doesn't make it unnecessary because, again, rabies is incredibly dangerous and it spreads like wildfire. There is no cure. So there's no messing around when it comes to that. I do not fault the state for putting these animals down and testing them for rabies. Based on the circumstances of events, I think that was the responsible thing for them to do. The person who I put all the blame on is Mark and his wife, because they, above all else, were housing these animals illegally without the proper licenses for them. They were given multiple opportunities to go get the proper licenses to keep these animals, and they didn't do that. And now they want to cry about it on social media. One of the things that really rubbed me the wrong way when the animals were taken from his property is he talked nonstop about how that's how he made his money, was with those two animals. And now what am I going to do for money, basically? If you're relying on exploiting your animals on the internet for money to pay for your sanctuary, you are not in the business of running a sanctuary, and you really need to be rethinking what you're doing. The only victims of this situation is the squirrel and the raccoon. They're the only victims. They would have never been seized and they would have never been put down had these two dummies got the proper licenses to keep them. And it's not that hard. Like, it's not that hard. If you own a responsible animal sanctuary, a legitimate sanctuary, you should have had this. This is a no-brainer. It's not difficult. So that's pretty much all I had to say for today's video, you guys. That's my breakdown of the Peanut the Squirrel situation, and I don't really think people should take anything you see on the internet at face value just because an animal dies. A lot of times there are legitimate reasons behind a story, and there's plenty of people that like to over-dramatize for sympathy when really it was their fault to begin with. So don't believe everybody. The squirrel died because the owner was negligent. And it's also completely disgusting that that guy wants to associate an animal with his OnlyFans account. I think that that's nasty and completely inappropriate and should tell everybody the type of person that he is. You could literally have any other OnlyFans username, and that's the one you go with. Okay guys, let's go ahead and get into today's fan art unboxing. Don't forget that if you want to send me any fan art, we are still accepting submissions for the next several months. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Yes! Oh my god, it says Raleigh Reacts in bubble letters. This is actually one of the things I was looking for because I would love to have a big Raleigh Reacts sign in the background. And this one is from Kaylin. Thank you so much, Kaylin. That's actually exactly what I was looking for. She said, "Hi, Raleigh. I'm 12 years old. I live in North Dakota, and I love your videos. I enjoy listening to your videos and watching them. I love Lincoln Braley and the things that you do in training them. I enjoy seeing them. This is a weird question. Is a Mustang a breed of horse?" Yes, a Mustang is a breed of a horse. Okay, next one. Oh my gosh, look at how adorable this one is, you guys. This is so cute. I it, the pink hair. Oh my gosh, her name is Riley. It's spelled almost exactly like my name, but just with a Y instead of an A. She said, I made this drawing of Link for your wall. I really hope you like it. My name's Riley, and I love how our names are so similar. I love that too. This next one is from Kate. She said, I've been watching your videos for a long time, and I've learned a lot. I appreciate all the evidence and studies that you show. Oh my gosh, and look at how good this drawing is of Link. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is so cute. I love it. Okay, next one. Gotta make sure I get everything. Oh, this one has a little bracelet. Oh my gosh, look at this, you guys. It's like if Link was a paint horse. This is so, so cute. This one is from Scarlett. She says, I'm a big fan of you. For 4 years, I think you take good care of your horses and pets. I jump and take riding lessons. Thank you so much for the fan art. I really appreciate it. Oh my gosh, look at this, you guys. This is my profile picture. Look at how adorable this is. It's perfect. Dagmar, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Danish. Hi, Raleigh. You're a very good equestrian. Sorry if I write bad. I'm from Denmark and I speak Danish. I'm a big fan of yours. I hope you like the drawing. Oh my God, thank you. Oh, this is from Addie. She said, I love you, Raleigh, and it's me and Link. Thank you so much, Addie. I really appreciate it. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me for today's fan art unboxing. Don't forget to send any. That address is going to be down below. Additionally, don't forget to check out orbitingbeast.com and also follow us on Patreon and members for extra horsey content. But otherwise, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.